Greetings and salutations, my movie-loving friends. My name is Gilbert Ybarra, and welcome back to the Attic Review. On today's episode of Tar, I'm going to talk about the darker side of Christmas and the anti-Santa Claus himself in Krampus. Taken from tales of German lore about what happens to those on the wrong side of the track for the Christmas spirit, this is a scary yet hilarious parable on why you need to check yourself before Krampus comes to wreck yourself. He is a mean one and is about to teach this bitter, ungrateful family a lesson. In traditional Attic Review fashion, I'm going to break the movie down into the three acts as I saw them play out, what I loved about each part, any complaints, and how I felt about the movie overall. So without further ado, let's check out the consequences of having no holiday cheer in Krampus. And look at all of that holiday cheer being spread around. And poor young Max seems to be the only person in his town that still has a genuine hold on Christmas spirit and cheer. I said town, but honestly, his parents, Tom and Sarah, his sister Bethany, ain't feeling it anymore either. So it's just Max and his German-speaking granny Omi that are still holding on to the spirit of old Saint Nick. And what are the holidays without some obnoxious, unwanted relatives around to ensure that no one has a good time? And that shitty wish comes true as Sarah's side of the family shows up, and these people are the absolute worst. Hilarious, but the worst. Sarah's sister Linda and her husband Howard have raised their kids to be as shitty as they are, and the little jerk cousins openly mock Max's letter to Santa while everyone at the dinner table does nothing. Pushed to the max, Max has had enough, saying goodbye to his belief in traditions as he angrily rips up his letter to Santa. But that unknowingly sends out a beacon call for the opposite of jolly old Saint Nick. As a snowstorm as bitter as Max is feeling right now hits the town, Team Beth decides this is a good time to go for a stroll through the neighborhood to check on her boyfriend. However, instead she sees the spirit of intimidating fear in Krampus as he chases her around before finally capturing her with a pretty cool little toy. Back at home, everyone is worried about Beth being gone, the power being out, no one being on the streets at all through the neighborhood, and as Tom and Howard set off to go find Beth, Omi gives them a warning about the imminent danger that they're in, and we end Act 1. What to like about Act 1? Well, let's start with atmosphere. I'm not really a big Christmas fan, but I appreciate the warmth and realistically tense environment that normally goes with the holidays, unless you came from a healthy household, in which case I hate you. But despite the animosity in the air, there's a nice coziness to the home, a nice warmth between the relationship of Max and Omi, and some sparks between husband Tom and Sarah. The snowstorm is exciting because it's always a good time when people are trapped in bad weather, if you know what I mean. The characters are all played by exceptional actors, giving exceptional performances for how quickly we're introduced to them. The actors are all so wonderful in portraying holiday fun. And on a quick note, the musical score rocks. I am digging the mischievous John Williams-like vibe to go with the traditional horror undertones. My favorite part so far? Well, the opening is fun because of its cynical take on holiday behavior, sets the mood for what's to come. The introduction of the in-laws and the dinner scene are frustrating, but kind of funny because of the accuracy of dealing with unruly family members, which I think a lot of us can relate to. And lastly, Beth witnessing Krampus bouncing around all mimbly-bimbly from house to house was sick. Krampus looks like a bad mofo with all that drip on as he welcomes himself to town. Given the tone and feel of this movie, I don't have any complaints for Act 1, so on to Act 2. At the house, Omi and the rest are freaking out, man, as they're hearing some weird shit upstairs. And Tom and Howard aren't liking what they're seeing inside the house of Beth's boyfriend. Something sinister with hooves is lurking around when they get lured outside by Beth screaming. They walk outside and see Howard's Humvee obliterated, and they walked into a trap. After Tom saves Howard's ass from a snow graboid, they retreat back to the house to warn the others of what's going on, and that, for now, they have to board up the house before they can go find Beth again. So as the family tries to rest, Howard falls asleep on watch duty. And tisk tisk tisk, little Howie is lured to the fireplace by a gingerbread man that snatches him up. And then Krampus and his evil helpers begin their assault on the family. But hold up, Omi's got a little something to say. Long story short, Omi brought the shit on all of them for her Kevin McAllister-like wish to make her family disappear. Krampus heard that shit and obliged and is now back since Max made the same wish. Way to go, you two. Howard is stopped from leaving the house by some snowmen outside that look like they have some evil shenanigans on their mind, and as we head into Christmas Eve, Tom is planning an escape. However, some mysterious gifts upstairs that magically appeared earlier are beginning to stir, and Max gets a quick glimpse of Krampus as we end Act 2. Act 2 likes. Despite the action of Howard and Little Howie getting attacked, I like that this act was mostly about build-up and the anticipation of the third act, with Tom and Howard investigating the strangely deserted neighborhood, and Omi confessing that this shit was her fault. Toni Collette is badass as usual, but I love comedy dudes in horror, it just works. So Adam Scott and David Kuckner are superb here. I like the Krampus lore. Not sure how accurate it is to true folklore, but it is fun seeing the shit that happens to those on the naughty list. Some of my favorite scenes include when Tom saves Howard from that angry snowworm monster thing and proves to Howard that unlike his brother Brendan, he does not have a mangina.
Brendan has a mangina. Brendan has a mangina.
Little Howie getting snared up in that gingerbread man trap was creative and actually kind of scary the way he was dragged up through that chimney. Excellent sequence is the slick animation style used as Omi told her fire-ass story about her wish of banishing her family to the underworld coming true. Very reminiscent of old-timey Christmas animation, but mixed with more death and tragedy. One last scene that killed me was Aunt Dorothy and her open dislike of children. That had me laughing out loud because I can kind of relate, and this woman is just great comedic relief. Just like Act 1, this movie is exactly what it should be so far, so no complaints. On to Act 3 and the finale of Krampus. Stevie and Jordan, Howard's daughters that prefer to use the restroom standing up for some reason, go upstairs to investigate a strange noise or something. And we know that this isn't going to end very well for them. In the meantime, Howard is downstairs getting pummeled by some messed up gingerbread man before Rosie the dog comes up and saves his ass from getting worked anymore. And the rest of the parents are upstairs watching in horror as a Jack-in-the-Box finishes devouring Jordan, and then the toys from Misfit Islands attack them. The Bizarro elves show up to help Krampus haul away Aunt Dorothy, Howard, and Jordan, and as soon as the evil is gone, Tom leaves the path through the door for another escape, but oh no. Omi decides to hang back and 1v1 Krampus in hopes that her sacrifice will spare her family. That shit did not help Omi one bit, as Omi is now gone, and what about the rest of the parents? Yeah, the parents all get picked off one by the snow graboid, Stevie gets kidnapped by the evil elf, and Max gets a little FaceTime with Krampus before he sees the whole Krampus crew celebrating a little Festivus for the rest of us. Max begs Krampus to take back his wish, but him and his helpers crack up like the hyenas in Lion King as they say no takesies backsies, and Max is trying to apologize, but he still gets tossed into the pit of Christmas hell. But Max wakes up and it looks like his apology worked. It's Christmas morning and his family is there, they're all happy, the spirit is alive and well. Wait a second. That Krampus has a mean sense of humor. I like it. But he has something else to trick all of them into thinking that things were heavenly and great. But in reality, they are in his hellish possession forever. And we end Act 3 and Krampus. Act 3 was a devilish conclusion. Just when you thought Max had won, nope. This is one of my favorite horror movie endings ever because of its bleakness and not just some holiday miracle fluff. Everything leading up to the ending?
Fabulous!
Very fabulous, as we watch a royal rumble in the house between the spirits and the Naughty family. We've got kids going missing, some crazy evil henchmen that come along with Krampus, and the fact that Rosie the dog is fighting better than her humans. This act was intense and scary, but still remained funny, mostly due to Aunt Dorothy and Howard. Some of my favorite moments of Act 3, that whole melee at the house was very disturbing, violent, and entertaining. Watching Howard get capped up by the gingerbread man using a nail gun had me cackling, but seeing that revolting Jack-in-the-Box swallowing Jordan was unnerving. The final stand of Omi and the parents was sweet to see their sacrifice, but terrifying to see Krampus and his boys take them out. The bonfire party held by Krampus as Max tried to plead his case was neat to see because of the design and the wicked characters just prancing around. And of course I loved the ending minutes as we see the look of dread sweep over everyone's face and Max realizes their doomed fates. So how did I feel about this movie overall? Well, first of all, this movie is so much funnier than I remember it being. And this is a fun Christmas-themed horror movie. Although it gets intense, it's still comedic enough to balance out all the scary shit. Adam Scott, David Koechner, Toni Collette, thank you so much for your efforts in this silly premise. You made this movie great. I recommend this for holiday viewing because it's surprisingly PG-13 and has a great mix of holiday cheer, scares, and laughs. Most Christmas horror films are pretty brutal and violent, so this is a nice change of pace. Krampus will still scare you, but you'll still laugh and feel nice and warm. Remember to keep that fire hot. And that's it for today's episode of Tar, and how Krampus is a fun reminder to stay off that naughty list. And I hope you enjoyed this movie as much as I did. It has been an absolute pleasure. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell some friends about the channel. My name is Gilbert Ybarra, and thank you so much for watching the Attic Review. Smile, Tiger.